Hey, I'm your host, Melissa, and I want to welcome you to Not Your Average Blonde podcast. I'm here to show you how to elevate your life to become the best version of yourself. I want to take you along your journey to be anything but average and step into your confidence era. Join me each week by subscribing and listening to Not Your Average Blonde podcast, and let's begin our journey to become anything but average. Hello, Not Your Average Bestie. Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Blonde. I'm your host, Melissa, and I'm here to help you navigate your life, just like my intro said. First, for all my followers, I want to thank you for your patience with how long it has taken me to get out another episode of Not Your Average Blonde. It's been a hot minute. I've been working through some life stuff and been trying to get my life back on a track. And I thought about for today's episode, it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and it's both exciting and daunting, and I think it's very, very applicable. So today's topic is going to be on the power of blowing up your life. Diving into it, I want you to reflect back. Have you ever gone through periods of your life, or maybe you're here right now, where you feel like you're just going through the motions? You're not really living. Days are on repeat, like Groundhog Day. And how do you break out of the cycle? This is such a tough rut to be in. It's definitely been one that I've been kind of fighting a little bit lately. And I know tons of other people go through it, and it's, part of this human experience. But how do you break this cycle? Well, one of the most transformative things that you can do is to blow up your life. Not literally, of course, but just start fresh. It's kind of a daunting topic, and there's a lot of ambiguity about what does this mean? But that's what today's episode is about, is I'm going to walk you through that on how do you blow up your life. So starting, what does this mean? How do you do it without, completely losing it? First, let's start with a little exercise. I want you to take a moment or a few moments, take as long as you need. Come back to this episode several times, whatever it is. This is for you. This is your life. This is about you. So take a few moments and maybe pause this episode, but I want you to think about your life. If you're into writing things down or just visualizing or whatever it may be, let's take that time now and let's do that. So go grab your pen, paper, journal, get comfortable, whatever it is, and start writing things down as we go through this episode. So a couple of questions I want to ask you, to establish your baseline. Where are you currently at right now? I want you to analyze, assess, first things that come to your mind. And this can be your location. You can start off with, where do you live? Are you traveling right now? What are your circumstances? Are you married? Are you fresh out of a relationship? Are you happily in a relationship? What's your job? Are you in school? Take a moment to expound on these things, and anything else that comes to mind, write it down. You can do it in a list. You can mind map, which is my personal favorite. I absolutely love mind mapping, both for where I'm at in my life as well as for visualizing future goals. But the base is where are you currently at in life? Write those things down. Now that you've written those things down, I want you to think about how you feel when you look at each of those items. How do you feel when you think about where you're currently at? Next to each of those things, write down the emotions associated with each of the previous things that you thought about and or wrote down. Are you happy with your job? How do you feel with your relationship? Are you satisfied with where you are? Are you very, very happy? Are you unhappy? Is there room for improvement? What about your job? What about school? Are you studying something that you want to study? Or are you stressed out? But, this is the goal that you're, for the path that you're on, for the goal that you have, for your life. Dig deep. Write down those emotions that are associated with each of those items that you have written down. And next, with each of those items that you wrote down and thought about, I want you to mark somehow what is working for you and what is not working. Annotate that. Differentiate that from those other items that you have. Differentiate the two, what's working, what's not working with that. And then take the time and look at that paper. Reflect on it. And as we go through this episode, hopefully I can give you more guidance of blowing up your life. So now that we've done the exercise, going back to blowing up your life, what does that mean? It's about making those radical changes and then stepping outside your comfort zone and then taking control of your destiny. At the end of the day, it's your life. But to start, you have to recognize when things aren't working, and then you need to have the courage to make those changes. An example from my own life, now I will caveat, this is on the extreme level for some people, pretty normal for me. And if you're one of my friends listening to this, hopefully you understand and know by now, oh, there's Melissa, she's off gallivanting in Africa or Asia somewhere, or doing X, Y, or Z thing, kind of extreme things, but that's just, what some of the things I enjoy in my life. But, a personal example I have of majorly like blowing up my life was when I went through my divorce at 25 years old. Got married super young, got married at 21, was divorced by 25. But my marriage was not working and I knew I needed a change. I was incredibly unhappy in it. I knew I needed to get a divorce. And it was hard. And I knew pretty quickly, like after year one, like definitely knew like this was not working out for either of us and drastic changes needed to be made. And I was afraid to make that change. And my marriage and my life just continued to drag out and I just got miserable and more miserable. And it was difficult. It was hard. But I ultimately like reached that point where like I needed to drastically change my life. On a whim, I ended up applying to like a grad school program. I got in, much to my surprise, was not completely expecting that. I left my ex-husband, got a divorce. I left the country and I moved to the Middle East for this grad school program that I'd gotten into. And I literally only had 2 bags and a carry-on. It's wild right now. Like here I am like in my 30s looking back to, like my mid 20s, especially. My 20s were such a shit show. I think they are for all of us, but no one ever tells you that. But it's pretty wild. Like when I look back and reflect on it, my parents thought I was absolutely insane. And some of my friends, I'm pretty sure, weren't quite sure what to think about, but I had some really good ones that supported me and that helped me through like those really hard times. And looking back, it's ultimately what I needed at that time in my life. Like blowing it up, I needed that radical change. And looking back on this day, I don't regret any bit of it. So how did I get to that point? One of the first things that I did was like I recognized the need for change. There were a lot of things wrong with my marriage, and we can dissect that another day. I'm more than happy to do a couple of episodes actually on like divorce and navigating divorce and then navigating life post-divorce. But getting back to this topic, at the end of the day, I recognized that I was deeply unhappy and that it was on that like that soul level. It was very, very unsettling. Like my soul knew I needed change, and I recognized that need for change. And that's step 1. It's recognizing the need for change. You feel it, and life does a pretty good job with giving you signs and ushering in change. What makes it so hard is like we're incredibly resistant to change. And what's even harder, probably honestly is like the hardest part with this is having that brutal honesty with yourself. Looking at yourself and understanding like and recognizing like, are you happy or are you unhappy? Are you unfulfilled? If the answer is no on your list, that you created during this exercise, it's time to consider, what needs change. Look at those items that you've starred or that you highlighted or whatever method that you used. Those are things that need change in your life. Often we ignore like the signs that we're unhappy because we're afraid of change. And I get it. It can be incredibly scary. It's terrifying at times, but it's a mindset shift. And that's what some of this podcast is about, is like helping you through like some of those mindset shifts and how to face, some of those challenges like within life, especially when it comes to change. But like those feelings of like dissatisfaction that you're feeling, they're there for a reason. They're your inner self telling you that something needs to change. It's that drive. That list that you created earlier, maybe add that into a journal or whatever, but keep it. Take some more time if you need after this episode and sort through your thoughts and feelings and gain more clarity of what's not working in your life. Sometimes we're in this rut of like dissatisfaction and it can be hard to recognize those inner signals. But by taking that time like you are today, and hopefully this episode will help you tune into like those inner signals, can help you to be able to identify like those areas of your life that you need change. And once you recognize the need for change, the next step is to create a vision for your new life. I love visualization. Creating a vision for your new life can be such a powerful tool. Just taking that time and connecting, with your inner self and figuring out, what do you want your life to look like? Where do you want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Sometimes I have a hard time with 10 years because I am a person that I think through like my challenges in my life, has helped me to become a person where I've learned to like embrace change, and I actually enjoy change. It still intimidates me at times, but ultimately I recognize like the good that comes from change, and there's a lot of potential that comes with change, and that gives me hope and trust in like the process. But visualizing your ideal life can give you a roadmap for those changes that you need to make. Like I said, visualization, it's incredibly powerful. It gives you something tangible that you can work towards. When I blew up my life and like I moved to the Middle East, I had good mentors and friends who helped me through the haze and confusion during that period of my life. They helped me to imagine what my future would look like. And this can start small. You can start with like the day-to-day, routine, and range to like the bigger picture of how you want your life to look. Picture everything, like from your morning routine to your career, to your social life, to the person that you want to build yourself into. That's what I focus on a lot. And again, some of the motivation behind creating this podcast is building that person that you want to become, that you want to be. Having that vision of how I want to build my life has kept me motivated and moving forward. And then it helps keep me focused onto what changes that I need to make. And as we all know, like change only comes with action. Action's where the rubber meets the road. Like you recognize the need for change, you visualize your new life, and now it's time to act. This may mean like quitting your job that you hate, or ending the relationship, or moving to a new city, or all of it. It can be as extreme or as great as you want it to be. It's ultimately, it's your life and you're the one that has to live it. But I recognize that like taking action is the scariest part. But it's the most rewarding though. It's hard work. It's not easy, but it's so incredibly rewarding. And action comes with like just starting with the small steps. Make a plan, set deadlines, hold yourself accountable. And it's okay to feel scared. This means that you're doing something brave. You're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And courage doesn't come without the absence of fear. It's the willingness to still act despite it. And remember, you are worth it. I'm going to hammer that every single episode. Just you are worth the investment. You are worth the time. You are worth the hard work. You are worthy of living the best life that you can have. We only get one shot at this life, so why not make the most of it? Why not make the best of it? And blowing up your life, it's not just a one-time event. It truly is like a journey. And your life is a series of like chapters. It's just not one long continuous thing. It's several chapters that make up like your life. And I think that's such a beautiful concept. There's going to be ups and downs. You're going to have moments of doubt. And unexpected challenges are going to come along the way. And embrace them all as a part of the process. Every time that I've blown up my life, there were tough moments and times. It wasn't easy. There's definitely times I wanted to give up, but those times that like I wanted to give up, I broke the journey down into just smaller experience. And there are definitely some periods in my life where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get through today. Sometimes it's even less than that. All right, I just got to get through this morning. I got to get through the next 60 minutes. Whatever it may be, break it down into like those manageable chunks. But each of these challenges that you go through, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. Through blowing up my life and through my experiences, like I learned how to adapt and how to be patient, and most importantly, how to move forward. I learned how to embrace the journey, how to be kind to myself, and then also celebrate like my progress, no matter like how small. Blowing up your life can lead to incredible personal growth, in addition to fulfillment and happiness. And like, who doesn't want that? Come on. It's ultimately about creating a life that's truly yours. The rewards are immense. You'll discover strengths you didn't know you had. You're going to build resilience. You'll find a sense of purpose. And it's about living authentically and embracing who you are and living a life that's true to you. Now, how amazing does that sound? So, as we are at the end of this episode, if you're feeling inspired to blow up your life, remember that it's never too late for a fresh start. It's about taking control, making bold moves, and creating a life that you love. So thank you for joining me on another episode of Not Your Average Blonde and learning how to be anything but average. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need a little nudge to make a big change. Until next time, stay bold, stay brave. Love you guys.